Cool. Thumbs up, the audio is good, right? Sound is good. Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, I know we weren't able to do a pre-post letting you guys know that I was going to be going live. It was actually supposed to be done a day or two ago. Kind of got pushed back, but we're live here anyways. You guys want to share this to get it out to your friends and hopefully help them out, that would be cool. So I apologize on that. But no, today's video, we're going to be talking a lot about just my past events that we've been going to. We have Psycho Nitro Blast. We have the carpet race that I attended, the Exact RC race last week in OCRC. And then I was supposed to travel to Florida this past weekend, but wasn't able to, wasn't feeling quite well. So I had to back out of that. So it's cool to see you guys tuning in to the live feed kind of last minute. I appreciate you guys supporting the page and RC racing. So if those who have any topics that they want to talk about or have any questions they would like to know, please comment down below and I'll be at my best to answer them and kind of go from there. So now that we got a good audience, we can kind of start beginning. As you can see, I got my B74 right here, but we'll talk about some of the cool stuff that I've been doing to that a little bit later. To the right of me, I got my 8-scale Truggy right here. This is the winning truck from the Psycho Nitro Blast. Pretty stoked on how everything kind of happened at Psycho Nitro. There's been a lot of time and effort that we've all been putting in, not just us at Associated, but it was pretty obvious that a lot of the teams out there were giving it everyone's best shot at that event. So no, I wanted to go through some of the key things about the Truggy stuff that we've learned. A lot of testings transpired from the buggy to the Truggy stuff that I've learned. As you can see, I have we have prototype rear hubs that we've been running that should be out very soon. I've gotten a lot of questions on when these will be released. For those who are asking of what's kind of all different, we might not be able to see, but we have different hub towers that you're able to change the height for the camber length, top and bottom height, and then left and right for the length. This can give you option settings that the current hub that we offer can't. Of course, you still have the adjustable axle height to lower the axle high, low, or in the middle. So that's been pretty good to test with. Currently, right now, I am running a setting that is achievable to get with the current aluminum hubs. I am just running middle axle height on the hub and then the outside location on the old blue hub. So I'm pretty sure that the old blue hub is discontinued. We should be getting these aluminum hubs very soon. I'm not sure if it's 2 weeks, a week, or tomorrow, but definitely keep an eye out on those. Definitely want to put them on all your vehicles if you can, so you have that same adjustability with the different hub towers. It's pretty light, slim, and kind of takes away a lot of slop, which is really nice. So we have some questions rolling in. Jake is asking, have you done any testing with the C and D blocks on the 8.2? I believe you're probably referring to the low roll center block that we just came out with. I have not actually ran that particular block quite yet, but I do know that there were tracks that I was asking for this setting to be made. So it's typically traction related. I mean, if you really feel like you have no traction If the track's not actually making any mechanical traction, the car is just like completely spinning out. Typically, that means that your car is too stiff and it's not rolling. And lowering the roll center helps with the car, making it softer, allowing the suspension to actually roll and creating natural mechanical bind. So that's typically the kind of conditions that you would want to run it in. Anyways, we're gonna roll. We'll kind of go answer some questions kind of halfway through. On the back of my Truggy, I wanted to talk about some of the carbon plates. We offer carbon plates and plastic plates for the arms right now. I'm currently running 2 plates per arm on the rear, which means it's double the thickness, which means like hardly any arm flex. Given the Truggy arm's substantially longer than the Buggy, there's more leverage on the outer hinge pin to flex on the arm. And that just helps with the double plate to take away some of that flex. So if you do feel like in Nitro Buggy or E-Buggy that you feel like your rear arm's flexing quite a bit, and it's also temperature dependent on if it's really humid out, hot, if you're in the sun, all that stuff kind of matters. If it's really cold and you're racing at night, highly recommend not making the arm super stiff. But if you're racing in Florida or in Arizona or California where it's it's middle of the day, hottest time of the day, you want to make your arms a little bit stiffer because you feel like it's naturally flexing a lot, then that's when you would come into place, add the extra plate or add from plastic to carbon. And then if you really want to go excessive, especially on like the Truggy, doing the double plate to have zero slop or zero to none flex in the arm would be the kind of recommendation that I would say. I don't do it to the front. That I just have a standard front plastic plate, as the rear has the double carbon. So as far as the plate situation goes, like on like Buggy, I'm just currently running the plastic plates. So here's my winning E-Buggy. I have the plastic plates in the rear and in the front. As you can see, I got the carbon Protect side rails, which is something that we'll kind of talk about a little bit shortly after the Nitro talk. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions regarding the 8-scale stuff, I'm not sure what kind of audience we're having in the chat at the moment. I know it's kind of a last minute YouTube and Facebook Live. So we have, the setup sheet for the Truggy and E-Buggy is posted on rc10.com. I'm pretty sure I got with Brent a week or 2 ago regarding the setups for that. So we got new racer in the house, had his first race with the B6.2 last weekend, finished 3rd in the novice class. So that's pretty cool to see. Appreciate you tuning in to the live feed, man. Good job. Keep up the good work. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send a message to us team guys, and we'll be sure to help you out as best as possible. So good job. So we have some people tuning in to my YouTube channel that are asking questions. What electronics do you run in your E-Buggy? That's a good question. I run the Hobbywing electronics, the 1900 kV motor, and then our new XR8 Pro speed control. We just released that a few months ago. It's been a new system that Mayfield and I and Tessman and Paul Chigarello out here in the States have been running. Pretty unbelievable. Took the big win at Sacro Nitro Blast, took the big win at SIC earlier this year, and it's been pretty much on fire this whole year, pretty much undefeated at Mayfield Rennen at Nitro Challenge. And so the electronics is really important for E-Buggy. It's really important that they're reliable and have plenty of power and smooth power band to be consistent with the big triples and doubles and rhythm sections. There's a lot of speed controls and motors out there that overheat. They don't last. Hard to tune with them. With our new system, we have the OTA programmer box where you can use your phone on the app to see all the parameters. As far as transparency goes, is pretty awesome. So definitely check that out on Hobby Wings North America's website, or A-Main Hobbies, or even if you want to check out your local hobby shop, you can do that as well. So we have Matt is asking, how do you get your 1/8 scale Nitro vehicles to snap quickly around 180 corners without losing rear traction? It's not, believe it or not, it's not a setup. It's not a setup dependent on that. It's more like driver's technique. Typically, to get the car to kind of whip around the 180s, you can add a little bit more rear brake as far as like an e-brake on a real car. You get the car to kind of start rotating in that direction. And then once you release the brake, the car kind of finds center with traction, and then you kind of use the clutch and power out. Maybe if you need some more rotation, that's kind of the first thing that I go to, is add more rear brake or take away front brake. You want to be careful when you add brakes so you don't feel like the car's being bound up. So, yeah, so we have Nitro all ears. Yeah, so I wanted to bring up to you guys, I kind of wanted to talk about the ProTech carbon fiber side rails. I thought I had another set over here for 8 scale. These ones are particularly for the 10 scale B74, but it's still relatable. I wanted to show you guys that I have them on my E-Buggy. I was a little bit hesitant when I saw ProTech release the side rails for the vehicles. I know that they were substantially lighter than the plastic ones, and of course, being carbon, it ends up being a little bit less flex. I'm completely sold. I've never been so happy with an upgraded product for all my vehicles, as far as the B74, RC8, B3.2, E, and the Nitro Buggy, and then I'm going to start running them on my truck. All my cars at Silver State will have them. Definitely want to check them out on ProTech's or A-Main Hobbies website. ProTech's the product for sure. You want to shed some weight, that is definitely the place to do it. Is the side rails. Makes it lighter, has a little bit less flex, and I think it performs and jumps a little bit nicer. A little bit more consistency when you're going around the track, especially if you talk about 10 scale. I've been rocking them in my B74. I've never been so happy with my four-wheel drive car the last few events, being really lightweight and easy to drive. It seems like for 10 scale racing, the car's weight has been pretty important, being close to minimum weight. My B74 is roughly 1630-ish or 1640-ish, I believe. So getting the car actually to minimum weight is pretty important, and that's what the ProTech side guards do, to add that extra comfort on shredding a little bit of body fat. And as far as 8 scale goes, like I said, I've been running them on my E-Buggy. So as far as like E-Buggy goes, I kind of wanted to mention we were doing a little bit of setup changing at Psycho Nitro Blast. Given that those tracks are so big and high speed, I really noticed as the traction started to come up, I really needed to kind of tune with the diff oils and shock oil a little bit. if you feel like your car is kind of just all over the place and has a lot of movement, and you don't feel like the car is completely centering up, it's as easy enough to just go up in diff oils, and or your shock oil is up 2.5 weight. As far as diff oil goes, I believe I ran, I think 15, 10, 10 on my E-Buggy in the mains. And my Nitro buggy, I ran 10, 10, 7, 7. So I think in Nitro buggy, I could have easily gone up in diff oils, as far as consistency with the longer runs, being easily handling to drive around people and traffic and so forth. Kind of want to go back. I've missed a couple of questions. Favorite tire setup for 17.5 two-wheel buggy on carpet? That's a good question. I've been doing a little bit of carpet racing the last month or two. I feel like the Nessie rear tire is, or the twin pins in the rear, was probably my favorite tire. It's a little bit lower profile. The pin's a little bit shorter. I'm not sure on the weight of it, but I would say that rear tire is pretty awesome. The new tire that we just released, I would say, would be the next biggest ticket for carpet. The tread height and width looks more appropriate. It's a little bit tighter. It should last a little bit longer. So pretty good job with J Concepts releasing the new tire. Super stoked on whenever we get a chance to run that at an event. So Mike's asking, hi Spencer, can you explain a bit more about the suspension up travel and carpet? A very high grip is to stop the chassis from bottoming out. I do this on dirt. Yeah, so as far as the up travel goes for these cars, we've done substantial amount of testing, with the down travel and then up travel for the cars. And we've noticed that it was good on dirt to run an excessive amount of up travel at the time, especially in two-wheel drive, to get the car to actually get into the travel, and not scrub speed. Well, what ended up happening on carpet was we were using the same mindset and testing data that we had with 10 scale dirt on carpet, and we noticed that given the car is running at such lower ride height and the car is going substantially faster, the car is actually getting to the chassis roll substantially quicker, which means that the roll of the chassis is hitting more than ever, on carpet. And when noticing on the bottom of the chassis, for instance, on dirt versus carpet, on carpet, you're able to see on these corners here that there's black marks, or depending on what color the carpet is, that it's hitting. And we noticed that we had a theory that if you limited the up travel, if that would help not scrub speed cornering. So it ended up coming to be that it was a true statement. The car was actually scrubbing so much speed because the car was rolling so much because of all the up travel, that it was actually scrubbing speed and making it slower miles per hour wise, and like the high speed sweepers or chicanes. And when we limited the up travel to take away a little less, we thought, well, maybe that would have some cause of instant flipping. Well, that wasn't the case at all. There was actually no disadvantage of taking away up travel on carpet. It was only positives. It helped with not scrubbing speed, helped with jumping off jumps, did not have any disadvantages with landing. So I think there's a point where there's an appropriate amount and an excessive amount. As you can see on some of the carpet setup sheets that we have for 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, we've have several limiters on the up travel to take away. So that's just kind of the theory and kind of the data that we've been able to gather. But you know, there's been a lot of questions asked. I've gotten a few messages asking me if having a chassis protector adds grip or takes away grip. These are all stuff like that is all questions that I feel like is so irrelevant and not important. People kind of are worrying about the wrong things and not making sure that the car mechanically is intact or built correctly. So we have someone here from Switzerland. How would you set up your RC8 B3.2 for high grip on AstroTurf? Thanks. Oof, that's a tough one. I'm not really 100% sure of what all I would do. The one thing that I will say, if I had to start from scratch, I would definitely start with a generic setup that's posted. Either it's mine or someone else's on the website, Dobby Days or whoever's, and see how it feels. If you feel like the car needs more traction or it's kind of all over the place, maybe go up on diff oils. As far as springs and stuff goes, I think that stuff's all pretty generic. I wouldn't really go worrying about that kind of stuff. Maybe take away a little bit of toe, just depending on the traction level and tires. So it's kind of the best I can give all there, buddy. We have some more questions rolling in. Yeah, so we just kind of briefly went over this on the C&D mount for 8 scale. The new mount that we just released, the low roll center mount, is to help with customers or conditions that we typically really rarely see. If the car feels like it has no traction or the track has no traction and the car's like can't even like drive out of a corner straight and it's just sliding everywhere, typically means the car is just too stiff, softer spring or lowering the roll center, which is what the block does. And I would definitely recommend trying out the block, running the pills all the way low. That'll help with getting rear traction, and I definitely can see more and more of us kind of running that, and maybe trying to run that with a little bit stiffer spring or making it stiffer in a different way with anti-squat or so forth. So that's kind of what the new C&D blocks or the new low roll center block will do, help with that traction and so forth. Yeah, so Chris, on the RCA B3.2 or all the buggies and truggies, advantages of mixing short and front long rear chassis brace. That's a good question. It seems that we've kind of gone around the roller coaster of figuring out what was the best chassis braces for the car, figuring out what the best flex was. And it was pretty obvious that the front chassis brace short was substantially preferred over the long one. As far as the rear goes, I run the short chassis brace on all my cars. As far as the buggies go, I run a long chassis brace on my truck, but that's just given because the rear of the chassis is substantially longer, and as far as percentage goes, it ends up being really similar to the short brace. But on buggy, I always run the short chassis brace. As you can see, that's the location. That would be the long one. Yeah, it's just a kind of a preference. It's pretty good for you to try it yourself back to back, especially if you're at a track practicing. It's pretty easy to do. Definitely easy to test that out. So we have some more questions rolling in. Brent is asking about the hub and spindle height turf carpet with smaller diameter tires. Yes, that's a big question and topic that I like to go into more depth in a video for my YouTube. Ideally, that everyone's kind of forgetting about with the new carpet tires that are being released, and it's actually a good thing that like J Concepts changed the diameter of the tire size. One of the biggest things is the down travel that you lose and the up travel that you gain, because the tire diameter is substantially smaller. So as far as the center of the tire relative to the chassis is always the same. But as far as the down travel goes, if you had a bigger diameter tire, it would hit the ground quicker than a shorter tire. So you actually lose a little bit of the down travel. And as far as up travel goes, it's the same but reversed. I don't tune the axle height based on the tire diameter. It's just strictly based on the ride height. But you will notice at the same ride height with a bigger diameter tire versus the smaller diameter tire, the diff and bones are at a different spot at ride height. So it's all relative to kind of what the car is doing. I noticed at the carpet race at 702, people always say just run your diff height and axle height at +3, everything +3 because you're running it so low. Well, that was kind of the reversed mindset that we kind of took place at 702. I've noticed that I lost a lot of steering. My car didn't have that much steering at 702, and the lower I ran the diff, the more steering I had. So it's all kind of relative to traction and ride height. And then as far as feeling goes, sometimes when you run the diff really high, your car out of a corner doesn't really accelerate really fast, and you feel like you don't have enough like initial steering or feeling on power. It feels kind of soft. When you lower the ride height, or excuse me, lower the diff, car actually has more mechanical bind on power, which could put more weight transfer to the front to have more steering and off power steering. So kind of a little bit of a lot going on with the axle height and diff height and tire diameter, just a lot going on. So I appreciate it. I missed you guys over there in Tampa. It looked like a good event. Maybe next time. Wasn't able to go to Florida over the weekend. I wasn't really feeling that quite good. So feeling better, and looking forward to getting back out there in Las Vegas for the Silver State. That's actually my next event that we'll kind of talk about a little bit later at the end of the video. Kind of wrap up some of these questions we have here. When will the new diff bulkheads of Waynesco Nitro Druggy? Yeah, Jason, that's a good question. I know that we are completely out of diff cases, and I know for a fact that they are on their way here now. As far as shipping goes from the factory, it's been crazy to get product. There's been a lot of supply and demand in the world, if you haven't really noticed. I'm still running the same sample ones that I got back from last year. They've been holding up pretty well, and I know you guys want to get out there to run Truggy so you don't have any failures for the ring and pinion. So should be hopefully soon to get those parts out there. I don't know an expected date, so one week at a time. So how long should I expect to take for the truck to break in when brand new? Typically for 8-scale vehicles, I like to say about a half a gallon. Well, I would say a full break-in. And then after that half a gallon, I would definitely recommend to redo the diffs, as far as like maybe put new fresh diff oil in or top them off. And then once that's done, check the bearings, and then you're pretty much good to go. Ideally, I would say 6 to 8 tanks is a good start, but I would say full break-in. I mean, I'm running the same drive line in my cars from the middle of last year, so I'm not going to be changing them for Silver State. I feel like the longer you run them at the moment, the better, until you start to see some serious like warp in the outdrives. So mine look pretty new. The fronts definitely last longer than the rears, and I definitely wouldn't recommend interchanging them. Always keep it a set for driveline. Yeah, so my Truggy did have Mugen shock shafts. That is because I am running the outside hole location on the arms, front and rear. When doing that, our current shock shafts aren't long enough to get appropriate droop in the front and rear. So it's Truggy front and rear shock shafts, 109 in the front, 130 in the rear. Definitely recommend trying the outside hole in the arms. I feel like the car is more stable and lands a little bit better and has really, really good steering and corner speed. MX has the new exhaust. What's your thoughts? I have no idea. I've never ran the MX pipes, so I just run the ProTech 2090s or the OS 2090s. That's kind of my go-to pipes. I'm not really sure the pipes on that for the MX stuff. Some new people in the house. What's up, man? Kyle. Yeah. So as far as the 8SCO stuff goes, that's pretty much kind of the big updates of what's been going on. We have Silver State coming up in 2 weeks that I'm looking forward to heading up. I know for sure the event is going to be sold out again. I know we're going to have to wear masks at the event on the premises the whole time. So it looks like we'll be pitting outside as far as the manufacturers go. I mean, as far as people that want to know about the Silver State event, it's those kind of events, the Psycho Nitro Blast, the AMSs, Silver State, SIC, all those races that are held indoor. Hands down, the best races to possibly go to. Can never be rained out. No weather effects can have any issues. I know a lot of the manufacturers are going, so as far as product help, buying tires, buying parts, all that stuff's pretty good about doing that as far as customer bases go. So Joey does a pretty good job handling that stuff at Silver State. The venues at one of the resorts, so kind of hard to beat. Go to your room, have a nice dinner, go out, gamble a little bit if that's what you like to do. So I'm looking forward to it. Check out the pool, hang out with the friends, have some good dinners, and race it out in Las Vegas. It's pretty hard to beat. Yeah, so as far as Robbie's asking about tires for Las Vegas, as far as I run J Concept stuff, so I'll probably be running J Concept's green reflexes to start. Always a good starting tire, and then work our way through blues reflex, and then even working our way through our aqua compounds, maybe even a rehab or a detox, depending on the traction and the dust. So you can't go wrong with blue and green reflexes or stalkers. Reflexes have a little bit more of like that instant grip or steering. The stalkers, it being a bigger pin, is a little bit lazier. Reflexes probably won't last as long as the stalkers, so it's just depending on what you're looking for. So it's kind of my go-to stuff at the moment is green reflexes. That's what we ran at Psycho Nitro Blast. Is what we ran at or the start of Psycho Nitro Blast. It's what we ran in podium with at the Nitro Challenge. So the reflexes have been on a pretty good streak. Yeah, so Kyle's asking when do you use detoxes or rehabs? Typically when the track's a little bit more grooved, if you start to see a little bit more of a line, and then the tire wear starts getting higher, that's typically kind of our go-to feeling. Or if the track feels like when you're on the track, it's kind of hard to drive. Steering input's kind of a really twitchy. That's kind of like indication of when you need to go to a detox or a rehab. Boom, boom. Yeah, so anyways, guys, that pretty much wraps up the 8 skills conversation stuff. If you do have any questions, I'll be kind of sliding over. We're going to talk about sideguard, well, the rest of the sideguard stuff, B74 setup stuff that we've been working on, the B6.3 stuff. So kind of last going around questions. We still have a good amount of time left on the feed. So anyways, I'm going to take the body off, kind of show you some of the things about my B74. I've been super pumped on how our testing and stuff has been with our B74. So this car is right off the track from the Exact RC race. You can see I run the front wing here, outside hole on the front arm. I've been really, really loving the outside hole in the front arm. Yellow front spring, diff height in the front and rear is 0, 0 axle height in the rear, +1 axle height in the front. As you can see, I'm rocking the 4600 milliamp ProTech battery. Obviously, for modified guys, this is what I would recommend if you run 17 or 13.5 4-wheel drive. Highly recommend running the biggest milliamp battery you guys can get, whether if it's the ProTech 6100 or the Reedy 5800. Definitely believe that the more milliamp versus the weight is undeniable, more important for that stock spec racing. Keeping the voltage higher, longer, just strictly has more power. So on top of that, I know a lot of people have asked me Diff Oil Questions. At OCRC, I ran 20K in the front, 500 in the center, 10 in the rear. This is also what Cody Newmandahl ran when he ran 13.5. He seemed to be pretty happy with the diff oils. My personal preference on the center diff, no question, it's a no-brainer to run 500K. I feel like 300K, 350K is a little bit harder to drive off power. You don't have as much rip out of a corner. It doesn't launch as good as 500. That's just my personal preference. So if you guys have any questions about the B74 stuff or diff oils, don't hesitate to answer below or ask below, and I'll answer it. Yeah, so mainly with the kind of the latest and greatest setup stuff about the 4-wheel drive that we've been running with the outside hole in the front arms is 2-hole 1.7 front pistons. I know when you run the inside hole in the front arm, you run 2-hole 1.6s. With the outside hole, you kind of lack a little bit of, you kind of gain a lot more pack to the shock on the arm. So to kind of rebalance everything, I run a little bit bigger hole to kind of rebalance that act. I ran 42.5 weight in the front oil, 35 weight in the rear. So that's kind of like the balancing act that I'm working with. 2-hole 1.8s in the back as well. Yeah, so Kevin's asking, it's a good question. For those who've been kind of paying attention, we've been running the non-B64 front wheel, whether it's the X-Ray front wheel or the 22X front wheel. That J Concepts offers, that's the wheel that I run, is the Veloci front offset. So I'm still running that other offset wheel. That's something that I've been traditionally running the last year and a half now, I think. I've been pretty happy with how it's been steering. The consistency has been pretty good. Kevin, I don't know if you've been liking the other offset wheel, but I'd like to hear your thoughts of what you have been running. I know you've been out there running a little bit. So Drew Sturgeon's asking with a piston setup. Well, if you're asking about the 10 scale stuff, 2-hole 1.7s in the front, 30 or 42 and a half weight. 2-hole 1.8s in the rear with 35 weight. That's what I ran at OCRC last weekend. Jake is asking, have you run the new thin pistons? I have not run the new thin pistons. I've been rocking the standard pistons. I really feel like that I've been pretty happy with the pistons. I haven't really been able to get out there and run much practice. I've been kind of on the go, just constant racing and racing. So Kevin King, I've been following your lead. I do like the different scrub. It has more mid exit, just smoother overall. Yeah, I think the wheel stuff is pretty good. I really think if you haven't already tried the outside hole in the front arm, I believe I saw a picture of the red rocket. I saw that it wasn't on the outside hole, I believe, but I think all that stuff's been pretty good that I've been running. So yeah, it just depends on how it feels consistency wise. I know when you run the thicker diff oils, 20, 510, sometimes you can get away with running a raised front diff, especially with the thicker diff oils. To get the front, just to get the front end to rotate fully off the rear into the front. But I tried that OCRC. I didn't prefer it. So one thing that I will say I've been running on the A and B mount is the black inserts. I've been running 0.5 up and 1 in. There was a little bit of a confusion at OCRC. I actually misplaced my pills. I thought I had them in right, but they weren't. So definitely be sure to check the manual how those are supposed to be placed in. But the goal was to run 0.5 height up and then 1 in, so completely narrow, with the 5 mil hexes in the front and 5 mil hexes in the rear. So Alex is asking, I caught the tail end of your battery versus weight statement. Can you repeat that? Yeah, so for those who run the spec classes, if you run mod, you have plenty of power to run a 4,600 milliamp battery. In my professional opinion on the power to weight ratio versus voltage, I believe, and it's a known fact, actually, A-Man Hobbies did a video talking about this. Running the more milliamp battery has more power through the longer run, or through the 5-minute run or 10-minute run, than a 4,600 milliamp battery. And as far as like weight versus voltage, I would rather have a really, really heavy vehicle, but have a longer lasting voltage for power for my race than having a really light vehicle and not much voltage to go with the power. So if you run stock, it is without a question to run the biggest milliamp battery that you can. I would, if you're going to be concerned about weight, then you can take some different body fat off from a different area, whether if you want to do it with the side rails. I run on these, take off 20 grams. If you run the plastic gears in the front and rear diff, or the center, if you run the center diff, titanium screws takes off a good amount of weight. If you run the pucks system, which I really think that the pucks aren't really recommended. I know, yes, it takes off a good amount of rotating mass, but you lose a lot of mechanical bind in the front and rear diff, which can change the handling of the car. But you should be able to get the car pretty light with everything else. If you can be in the 1640 or 1650 range, that's like perfect for weight. So that Carter, that is not. They do not make carbon side rails for the B6.2. I wish they did. I would run them. Actually, the way that the chassis is molded, you can't really run the side rails like that. So just run the standard ones. Pretty easy to do. So we have someone coming in on my YouTube channel. What titanium screws would you recommend? Without a question, the Lunsford screws are Lunsford RC. It's the company. They're out of Portland, Oregon. Best screws in the game, made here. Kelly is the owner, and those guys over there do a great job. I've been getting my screws from them since pretty much day one. They've been a big supporter of mine. It does come with a price, but you won't ever need another screw set ever again as long as you take care of them and don't strip them. So definitely check it out. Someone in the house here from Baltimore. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. So, Alex, hopefully I answered your question about the battery and weight statement. Hopefully that kind of clears some things up in the air. So, what would be the biggest takeaway in driving the B6.2 and the B6.3R, and is there any noticeable differences? Yes, I really can say that as far as the natural build of the vehicle, substantially nicer to build. A lot of the fine detail stuff that we were able to make and change on the new the 0.3 car. As far as drivability goes, I mean, I've been shocked on how good it's been out of the box as far as drivability and consistency. I think both cars have great traction. I think if you did a blind test, I think you'd be shocked on how much better the 0.3 car is, even if you thought that your 0.2 car was really good. So that's my honest opinion. For those who are on the verge of getting a new car because they just got a 0.2, or if they're not sure if they want to buy a new kit or get the parts to change, I can guarantee you that you'll be satisfied with whatever route that you decide to go. Of either just getting a new kit or purchasing the parts to make it a 0.3 car. But as a whole, I have never been so happy with a two-wheel drive car. We've done really well this year with the new car. I've been super stoked with the direction, especially how it's been on carpet, and the drivability and first impressions that I've been hearing from just everyday customers that have messaged me and thanked me for setup help with them. So definitely check it out. We have some setup sheets posted on rc10.com. Looking forward to getting out to more races with the 10 scale stuff. Probably my next event. Heck, I think my next event's probably the the J Concepts INS at Hobby Action. But we have some 8 scale races coming up that we'll be running. So that's a good question. How do I stay calm on the driver's stand? I really feel that when I go up on the driver's stand, I really don't try to look at it as a pressured race. I just go up there thinking that I'm here playing with race cars with my friends, having a good time. And all I want to do is do the best I can and try to go out there and win. So if you kind of overthink it and feel like you're being pressured by something, then maybe just change your mindset a little bit of how you're taking it in. So that would be my recommendation. Kind of look at the big picture and not the small picture. Yeah, Rob, that's all I've been hearing, how great the build has been. Paul Wynn's been texting me over the week, said that he's been super happy on how his car that he built was. I know Jason Rona from Florida, the owner of J Concepts, told me that he was building his car last week. Said that it was a really good build. He hasn't built a two-wheel drive buggy in over a year or two, so he says it was very easy and straightforward, and how clean it was to build. So it's awesome to hear everyone having some fun. So no, I do not run the +3 chassis on my dirt car. I run the standard dirt chassis on my dirt car. Run the +3 chassis on carpet. So that's just my recommendation. I believe the +3 chassis on dirt is a little bit harder to drive over the short chassis. So it's my kind of 2 cents. So Drew, I am just running the standard waterfall on my two-wheel drive. I'm not running the turnbuckle. I think there could be a road to an event where we do run the turnbuckle stuff, and everyone's just will probably start to switch over, and it'll be kind of the new standard. I know if the track's really bumpy and not even, the turnbuckle stuff is probably more preferred. But like I said, with a little bit of running that I've been doing for as far as testing goes, and not been going to event, I've just been running the standard stuff. Hey man, tuning in here. I appreciate you commenting below, and seems that the help's been helping out. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to help out. Hey man, yeah. So as far as getting setup help, I mean, you're more than welcome to send a message on Facebook or YouTube, or even Instagram. Ask out anything. All of us drivers are pretty helpful. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask on here, I'd be more than happy to do that. Or if you want to message me privately, you can do that as well. So went from a mini B to a B 6.3 yesterday. It was my first real practice day with it. It was awesome. The car. That is awesome to hear. I know the first impressions that everyone's been saying about the new car has been unbelievable. I think that we've did a pretty big home run on the .3 car. And as people that are here joining me now have asked about how the car is, so you can see it for yourself. We have customers tuning in saying how excited they were to build it and how good it felt on the track. So Charlie, you're the man for commenting below. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, and hopefully enjoy your rest of your weekend. So the purpose of the waterfall is just to kind of help with taking away flex, side to side flex and front to back. So the waterfall has less side to side flex. The waterfall helps with more of that to help with the uneven surfaces. So that's kind of something that you can kind of look at depending on the tracks that you run at. So Kevin's asking, what shocks, pistons did I run on carpet? I just ran 2-hole 1.6s in the front with 37 weight and 2-hole 1.7s with one hole drilled out to one extra hole drilled out to 1 millimeter. So it's a total of 3 holes. 2 holes are 1.7 and 1 hole was drilled out to 1.0. And I ran 35 weight rear oil. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate that got you to go with the associated stuff. Um, Definitely happy to see that you've been happy with everything. And like I said, great job for choosing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the races. So Kevin King's asking, have you preferred or have you messed with the short chassis or long chassis yet? Yes, I've had my conclusion done a while ago. The short chassis is definitely more preferred, I think, for me on dirt, and then for carpet or anything of that kind of style of racing, the +3 chassis. I know like the Proline guys believe that with the Proline S3 compound tires that the longer chassis is easier to drive. I really don't believe that is the case at all. I think that their tires are a little bit more aggressive. But being on J Concept stuff, my car's been super easy to drive. I have plenty of traction. And I think for the regular everyday person, um, unless you're a top 5 driver in the world, I don't think you can get away with running a long chassis on dirt. I mean, I think it's substantially that much harder to go around the track over the short. So if I'm not running it, then definitely you guys don't need to be running the longer chassis, like unless you're running it on carpet. That's just kind of straightforward answer. So I think it's definitely, if you something to want to play with, then go for it. But for sure, if you run on dirt, on slicks, short chassis with the arms back, I mean, it's plenty long enough. So until we see some serious traction increasing going on with these dirt tracks, I know that there's tons of traction. Like OCRC, that place is not that high traction at all. SDRC is not that high traction. So definitely would reconsider your chassis selection. I ran the short chassis at C or C or C, which would be quote unquote the ideal track where a long chassis would be substantially better, given that it's really big, really sweeping corners. And I ended up beating the rest of the team guys that ran the long chassis. Dakota's car, the Losi car, is kind of on the shorter side. So definitely, if I can run the short chassis at C or C, then there's no track here in the States that I would run a short or a long chassis at. So just my opinion. What do you think about the way dirt racing is going, moving more towards slick style racing versus treaded racing? Yeah, I mean, that's been something that's been going on for the last several years. If anything, I feel like the slick style racing has been making it a little bit easier for the customers to get into the hobby and have traction right off the get-go. OCRC is actually the only track left that we kind of barely run pins at. In fact, last weekend we kind of ran slicks really, really early, considering. I think it's going to be good. I think there's going to be some companies that are going to be releasing some tires that are just pre-slicked and pre-glued, hopefully down the road, to help with just gluing up a set or just opening a package and throwing them on your car and go out there and have some fun. So maybe we'll see some stuff coming down the road from J Concepts. I'm not sure yet, but looking forward to racing. And I think it's been the best it's been in a long time. So, well, anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap up. I'm gonna go eat some lunch here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We had a good amount of viewers in, and I appreciate you guys commenting below on a Sunday. If you have any other questions you want to message me privately, I'll do my best to get back with you. Anyways, guys, peace out, and we'll see you at the races soon. So take it easy.